And welcome back to another episode of the Old Nerdy Bastards, hosted by Official Nerd Broadcasting. I'm your host, Romi, otherwise known as RC. Missing my ever so dope co-host, Sean, because he just couldn't make it. But it's all good. We said we're going to get you content, so that's why we're here today. And I've got something special planned for you. I would like to think it's special. And we'll follow up with Sean another time. But today, as I mentioned earlier on in the video, I've got 5 nerd hot takes that might trigger some of you in the comments, and I'm kind of looking for that. In fact, we threw these questions out on Threads the other day, and we got a lot of responses on that. And if you're not following us on Threads or on Instagram or on YouTube, please tune in. We are the Old Nerdy Bastards. That is OL''Nerdy Bastards. We would love a share, a comment, a subscription more than anything, because according to statistics, about 88% of you tuning in are just watching the videos and liking, but you're not subscribed. So take a moment, hit that subscribe button, and also hit the bell for the notification. So every time we upload a video, you don't miss out. So without further ado, let's jump into the top 5 hot nerd takes. Number 1, Batman is DC's biggest problem. Before you come at me with pitchforks, before you do anything like that, I am the biggest Batman fan. Evident so, tons of toys back there, toys, statues, and figurines. But, and by the way, I even have a tattoo of the bat. So I'm a huge Batman fan. But what I mean by that is that DC relies on Batman a little too much these days, if you ask me. Matter of fact, for the last few decades. And again, hold off on the pitchforks. What I mean by that is DC seems to put all their other great characters at the wayside, considering Batman is their cash cow, which I get it. Business is business and people love Batman, i.e. myself, and so does Sean. But the truth is, they have a plethora of other characters that are incredible. I've been waiting for a Booster Gold movie, and sure, maybe not everybody else, but hey, if they do a good job, especially under James Gunn, who seems to understand C-list characters really well, it could really work. Or what about like a really good Flash movie? Now, don't get me wrong. Some of you might really love the 2023 iteration of the Flash. Good on you for that. But I don't think it's like the definitive version of the Flash. We could get a really good interpretation of the Flash. And because the Flash existed in a medium like television for so long, there's a whole customer base out there that knows who he is. Forget that. What about like a Zatanna movie? Zatanna's a great character. Okay, maybe some of you might think she's not. I think she's stellar, and you could write an incredible script around somebody like that. So my problem is, it's not Batman's fault. I guess you could say it's the studio's fault for always depending on the bat, but it gets kind of out of hand, right? Like, think of it this way. I love the Batman, right? I think Pattinson and Matt Reeves are doing something incredible. I'm really excited for the Batman 2, and we know it's going to cap off with the trilogy. We're going to get Batman 3 at some point, but in that same space, we're also getting the DCU Batman simultaneously. So we're going to have two Batmen on screen at the same time. Don't get me wrong. Nerds, we can understand, but the general public, they're going to be really confused, albeit more than ever. And the other thing is, we've seen, due to like recent testing screen, I guess you could say due to films that have come out in the past, people seem to love a grounded and gritty, realistic Batman, which is an insane thing to say. For example, when Ben Affleck's Batman came out, I thought, and Sean agrees as well, and most nerds would think he's the most comic accurate version of the Bat. But majority of the people thought he was way too out there because he would do backflips and he was just, too fantastical. So imagine a world where we have Matt Reeves Batman and we have the DCU Batman going on the big screen against each other technically, and people just not vibing and shucking with it. Why do we need 2 of them? So my whole thing is, I love Batman, don't get me wrong, but he is DC's biggest problem because that's all they rely on. It's time to set the cash cow aside. Don't get me wrong, I still want the trilogy to finish, but maybe let's invest in some other characters. And if you have some other characters in mind that the DCU should focus on, aside from the Bat, put it in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you on that. Hot take number 2. This is going to piss off a lot of you, but the MCU should have ended after Endgame. Again, stop. Don't come at me with pitchforks and all the fire. Or if you want to, that's fine. It is the internet. But my take on this is a little different. Don't get me wrong. Do I think they had good projects after Endgame? Sure. There were some decent projects, right? Like Spider-Man No Way Home, which I also think is just fan service, to be completely honest with you. Oh God, you're going to hate me for that one. But they have some decent projects. I did enjoy WandaVision, and I really liked Shang-Chi. But for the majority of it, I think we digressed heavily in that universe. it became messy. And then all the projects that did come out, well, they ended up being kind of forgettable. Does anybody remember the one with Winter Soldier and Sam? No, not really. And there's a plethora of other projects that just didn't hit. She-Hulk. Some of you loved it, and some of you did not. That's the whole point of having subjective opinions on things, and I get that. But for the majority of the part, I think we could have reset the universe. Now, I do know that that's the path they're taking. I can't say that definitively, but based on rumors and what we hear online, it seems like that's where they're headed after Avengers Secret Wars. And I mean, Doomsday is right around the corner, so I could see that happening with the introduction of the X-Men and all that stuff. But had they had rebooted the entire MCU after Endgame, might have been the right play. And in fact, we talk about this on one of our episodes. Maybe it's time to give some of these franchises a break. Like superhero fatigue, I don't think is necessarily the right thing, but I do think poor writing can equal superhero fatigue for most people. So if we were to take a 3 to 5 year gap, maybe a bit longer after Endgame, we could have started with an incredible Marvel Cinematic Universe from the ground up, and we could have had characters like the X-Men started. Even Spider-Man could have been at the helm of that, right? And we'd have a new Iron Man and a new set of Avengers. Why not? Now, that being said, don't get me wrong, I'm still excited for Avengers Doomsday. Some of the leak footage that came out the other day looks pretty cool. I'm kind of amped for it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, albeit it's VFX not included. But still, it looks exciting. Let's hope that Robert Downey Jr. plays a different version of Victor Von Doom, not just Tony Stark with the Iron Man mask. With the Doctor Doom mask on. But my hot take, really though, I do think that the MCU should have ended after Endgame. Now, if you disagree with me, I love that. Put it in the comment section. Tell me why you think that the MCU shouldn't have rebooted and they're on the right track still. And if you agree with me, give me a thumbs up. I love it, man. That's where I'm at. Hot take number 3. Some of you superhero fans and nerds are going to hate this, but horror movies are currently doing better than superhero movies. I'm going to use 2 examples that just came out. We're in 2026. 2 examples. Obsession, Backrooms. Now, Backrooms is an IP that existed prior to. Kane Parsons took it and delivered upon it. Seems like it had an incredible return at the box office, and reviews were pretty stellar. Obsession, on the other hand, completely new IP from some creators from Instagram, one particular individual who dropped out of film school. But, that's creepy. We're talking about horror and the door just opened. It's wind. It's just wind, folks. But my point is, Obsession just broke the box office. It's the highest earning film on the lowest budget. People are flocking to the theater based on word of mouth. When was the last time a superhero movie was able to do that? Right? Like, if we're being honest, in the last year, movies like Fantastic Four just did not hit the mark. In fact, some people called it the Fantastic Mediocre Four, or the Mediocre Four. I can't remember. The point was, it was very mid, as they say. And that's been the case with a lot of these projects as of late. Now, I am excited for movies like The Batman 2, which takes a very different approach than the MCU. And I'm very excited for Supergirl because I was a fan of Superman last year. And I know a lot of you are going to hate me for that because, my God, James Gunn, he sucks, apparently. But I do think he's very true to the source material. But that being said, Superman still didn't generate the hype that Obsession and Backrooms has generated. So I'm starting to see a trend where horror films are starting to become this new age media where people are back and invested in it. It reminds me of kind of like the 90s where Scream just reinvented the horror franchise again. And it's happening again. And it seems like it's pushing superhero movies to the side. Now, you can agree or disagree with me on that one, but I truly do believe that this is a thing that's happening. And there's a couple of projects that are lined up for next year that I'm kind of excited for. One of them being the remake of The Exorcist. Now, again, we had a remake of The Exorcist, or not a remake, but we had like a sequel to it a couple of years ago, which was terrible. The trailer was fantastic, but that movie was so bad. And this one kind of concerns me just because we have Scarlett Johansson and a pretty big cast. But if horror movies are on the trend that they've been on, I can see it delivering. And the truth is, companies like A24 really push the boundaries when it comes to horror and new ideas. Take Weapons, for example. I really enjoyed that. And the thing about Weapons was there was some element of humor in that film while also being quite scary. And they did the same thing with Barbarian. So right now, my third hot take is that horror films are just more exciting and more exhilarating than superhero projects at the moment. Number 4, not every villain needs a redemption arc. Now, this one is interesting because I think there are key villains that require that redemption arc. Take Loki, for example. I think it makes sense. Loki is one of those characters that absolutely deserves it. But it seems to be the case where now we're reinventing super villains with the ideologies of them needing this arc to become a good person, right? And I have this feeling that eventually we'll see that in Superman with Lex Luthor. And I get it. In the comic books, he's switched in and out and all that kind of stuff. He's been on the side of good and bad. But the truth is, not every villain needs it. I know a lot of you, we made a video about was Thanos right? And a lot of you agreed Thanos was right. And I guess some of that can be applied to the Joker in The Dark Knight, where people assumed that he was also doing the right thing. That being said, we need to stop this trend of giving villains the good redemption arc all the time, right? Take, for example, I think Mr. Freeze is a great example from the Batman the Animated Series. They took him and gave him an arc that actually made sense, which followed through in Batman and Robin, which we don't want to talk about ever again. Although, there's something so campy about that film that I love. Anyways, I digress. Some characters deserve it, some don't. For example, the new upcoming Clayface film. In the Batman animated series, they did make the arc seem like he was somebody that deserved a redemption. But if they do this movie correctly, and it's very horror focused, which it seems like it is, I would love it where he's not a good person at the end of it, and he just wants to cause chaos and harm and be an actual villain. I think that's the part we're missing as a society, is we're so caught up in fixing people or fixing movie villains that we forget they're the antagonist in the first place for a reason, right? Like the Joker. The Joker is just chaotic, man. Just let him be chaotic. He doesn't have to be this person that is trying to redefine society. Like, he's just a chaotic person that's been through some really bad trauma in his past, and he looked to the other side, right? And he just said everything's a joke. I love that ideology. The Riddler in the Batman, I thought his approach was really good until the end, where you find out technically he's just a 4chan like incel that's really mad at the world, and we're just trying to align with him on this, which I guess kind of makes sense. But I would have loved it if he was just that kooky, crazy guy that's just like, I'm done with society. I don't want to be fixed. I don't want to be, good anymore. So in my opinion, I don't think every villain needs a redemption arc anymore these days. We've done it too much. Let's chill. Let's make the bad guys bad again. And I'm here for it. And the final thing, the nerds are going to kill me. Number 5 is nostalgia is literally killing entertainment. Now, as a millennial, old nerdy bastard, as a millennial, I love nostalgia. It's just the way it is, right? I get it. But I think we're overusing it a little too much, or not us, but the studios are, to get my money. And I get it. That's just how it works. But you can't keep relying on Gen X and millennials to keep funding your projects based on nostalgia. We need to take a step back. Some projects are great. X-Men 97, one of the best things Marvel's put out in the last 5 years, okay? Which I should have said in the beginning of the video, but alas, here I am. So that is using nostalgia, but it's got incredible writing and it's doing a great job. Reviews are stellar. It's solid. But for majority of the part, we just noticed that people or companies that are using nostalgia to sell a product or to sell an IP is not landing, right? Like, I am actually excited for He-Man. I haven't watched He-Man yet, and the reviews are all right. So some people are bought into it. But one of the things that I'm really over is the Transformers franchise. Like, I don't need a Transformers G.I. Joe crossover. Am I going to go watch it? Probably, because nostalgia, and I'm 38. Like, it's just the way it goes. But it's killing the idea of content creation in this new world, right? Take, again, Obsession, for example. Great idea. Put it to the big screen and it works. I think studios need to start exploring new ideas once again and not relying on things that have existed for decades. And this is the problem. It's a remake after a remake after a remake, and it's every genre. It's not just superhero films. It happens with horror movies. How many iterations of Michael Myers am I going to get? Am I going to get another Leatherface next year? I actually think we are getting another Leatherface again. Same thing goes for Freddy, although Freddy has been on the back burner since, I think, 2010, because that movie was not it, right? But it seems to be an issue. Nostalgia seems to be something they constantly rely on, and it doesn't always work. Now, one example we did talk about previously was Predator as a franchise. They did a great job with that movie because they reinvented it. The Predator in 2018 was hot garbage, but they came back and flipped it on its script and called it Prey, which took it back to its roots, and it worked, and it brought in a new audience. And I think his name is Dan Trachtenberg. I hope I'm saying that correctly. The director who's been taking a really good approach moving forward into Predator Badlands and Killer of Killers, the animated one. I think it's a great approach. At some point, though, it has to stop. And we need to take a break, and we need to start focusing on new IPs. So don't kill me. I'm just the messenger. I'm just saying I think we rely on nostalgia way too much. And if you have other thoughts or you disagree, put it in the comments below because I'd love to hear your thoughts on nostalgia or not, right? So those are 5 nerd hot takes that you might not agree with, and it's probably going to get me canceled on most of your books, and you might never tune into another video, but it might trigger you enough for you to come back and watch another video made by ONB. So this is Romi signing off. We appreciate the time. Catch us next week. Hopefully Sean will be back. Otherwise, hit the share and subscribe and comment below. We love y'all. Take care. Peace.